should start. So, tonight's shiur is called Dreams. Why does Hashem make us a dream? Now, obviously, in Torah, the Torah takes dreams very seriously. And of course, when it comes to Yontif, we daven when the Kohanim are doing their brachas, we daven that in our tefillas that anybody who dreams about us and it's a good dream, that should come true. Any bad dreams shouldn't come true. Anything we dream, etc. We take dreams very seriously. So the question really which I wanted to delve into tonight is, why is it that Hashem makes us dream? He could have made us that we don't dream, but why is it that He makes us dream? So there's two ways of doing this shiur, but I think we'll go the slightly more deep way. So Rabbi Dessler, in Michte Medial, he has a beautiful, fabulous explanation of how this works in page 164. But before we actually go into the dreams and the purpose of dreams, he wants to establish something which is, I think, very interesting, or also very interesting. It's called Mahus HaKishuv, as the essay here. Page 162, we're going into 164. The idea of Kishuv. How does Kishuv work? So this is what he says. Kol hiyediyas haboes lana mibechutz. Any understanding that we have of the world, how it works, something external to us, megias el tadasena derech hamelech. The knowledge and understanding of how the world works, knowledge and understanding of anything, comes to us naturally via our brains, the moach. Right? Fine. Gam regashenu, mametzim, ali de hamoach, our feelings, both physical feelings and our emotional feelings, all come through the brain. And he says, the king calls him Sefer Tanyan, Perid Aleph, Afila, Halev, Mekabel, Me'amoach. Even the heart gets. I'm not looked at the Tanya to see exactly what he means. Whether it means figuratively the heart is informed by the brain, or whether it means that the brain triggers the heart's reactions, I'm not sure, but never mind.
The heart is figurative, though.
Sorry?
It really is all the brain. The heart is figurative.
You mean it literally is controlled by the brain?
There's no feelings in the heart.
Oh, that's because you've never had a stent put in. I can assure you there's lots of feelings in the heart, but it's not getting sufficient blood supply.
I mean, like the Gemara says, like certain thoughts are done by the kidney. That's like figurative.
Yeah, that's certainly figurative. Right.
Like
No,
heart
sorry?
Heart
No, but it could be figurative, but I'm saying that the mind will move to the heart, and that means your emotions can be controlled by your intellectual overcoming them. Yeah, could be.
That's still the brain.
Yeah. But here is the question, which he then goes on to say, are we clear so far? Everything we understand comes through the brain, right? So listen to the following words. But that wasn't always the case, was it? It wasn't always the case that the things that we understood came to us through our brains. Why? And the Gemara says, so the Gemara there famously says, everybody knows this, when you were yet in your mother's womb, before you were born, you are shown from one end of the world to the other end of the world, and you're also taught the whole Torah. I think we mentioned this Derek Agav on the Shiur about 2 months ago. And when I first learned that when I was a bocher, because of my incredibly sophisticated and advanced brain, I figured that, all right, Hashem takes you on a tour of the world. But that's not what it means, because misofa olamat sofo can't possibly apply to the world, because the world is circular, and a circle has got no beginning and got no end. So what does it mean? It means that misofa olam ad sofo, from the beginning, my separations, to the end, you were shown the whole of that when you were yet in your mother's womb. When you were in your mother's womb, the brain, as we understand it, certainly after 30 days it's not formed. It takes a long time for the brain to form, and yet we're being taught all that. So it's possible for you to understand. And then he says Kol HaTorah. Of course, the famous Malach is in there teaching the Kol HaTorah. But it's only at the end that you're going to have a brain which is recognizable like the brain that you and I have. And you know, of course, that the brain's still forming and changing its shape up until you're about 21 anyway. Which is why young people are often make stupid decisions, because their brain's not finished forming. So what it means is that therefore inside your mother's womb, before your brain was a functioning organ, then you were learning all this stuff, but you didn't have a brain, or a brain that would do the job. Then he says, and these understanding, the perceptions that you have to see the whole world, everything in the world, all of knowledge, because as it says in Pirkei Avos, it says ben bag. Everything is in the Torah. So you were taught all of knowledge and all of history, all of time was shown to you when you were in your mother's womb. But you still didn't have a brain. But you understood that. Okay. When you came into the world, that knowledge is taken away from you, but you understood it. Right. Ela hasogas b'nimas heina she'ovas al nefesh b'li hagvolas zmanu mokum b'li herif b'li emtzai. It just came to your neshama without any vehicle passing it on to you. It just came from the source of knowledge into your neshama. Fine. So if that's true, answer me the following question. Now I've got to phrase this carefully here, or I'll mislead you. If what he said about the function of the brain is true, so again, he said all knowledge comes through the brain, but it wasn't always like that. When you were before your birth, pre-birth, then you got knowledge without the necessity of a brain. Then what is the function and purpose of the brain after birth?
Reclaim.
That's nicely put. What do you mean? Do you want to expand on that? What do you mean by reclaim?
Well, the knowledge that you taught, Torah-wise.
To reclaim, to get it back again?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. But relative to the way that you saw the world before the brain, before you were born, what's the purpose of the brain?
Yeah.
If effectively you had access to infinite knowledge, you saw all of time, at least all of time.
Obviously, not capable of doing that.
Sorry?
The way it happens in the womb is not possible to do.
Right, therefore,
And
so that...
when you add them, we need the brain. To do
Very good. So therefore, the brain says, the brain is therefore a barrier, and he establishes his territory and says, what you had before, what you could see before, not anymore. Me. Only through me. That infinite amount of knowledge that just simply flowed to you, there is now a barrier which stops you getting to that. It's called your brain. The brain says, only through me. He wants a monopoly in knowledge. Right? It's a bit like Google. It's a monopoly in knowledge. Okay. Fine. Because you guys labra oilam bo malach l'soitra as brief. And along comes the malach when you're born and gives you a little clap in the head. Heinisha poigem by koyach hateva shala elien achitzayin. That means to say that what it does, therefore, now is when it hits you in the lip, takes away the ability to see the knowledge in the way that you saw it before. Now it's only going to be seen through the brain. The brain, therefore, becomes dominant and takes away the ability to see things except through it. Right? It becomes insistent. It demands you only use it. And he's right. So far, so good?
A negative?
Sorry?
So it's a negative?
No, I made it that way. It's not a negative. It's up to you now. No, well, it's now giving the opportunity to do bechira. Right? You've got to fight to get that knowledge. Right? You're going to choose to make that
But
fight.
it's limiting.
It limits you. Yeah.
If not, you're going to be a robot. If you know everything, you're going to
That's
be a
right.
robot. If you
That's right.
work on it, if you know it, you
Yeah. But you can overcome the limitations of the brain. That's where we're going. So hold on just a second.
You have critical thinking, though, that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Sorry?
Inductive thinking, critical
When?
thinking.
Before or after?
But afterward.
Yes, of course. But that's the challenge. Are you going to do that?
You wouldn't have had that. If you just did a robot, encyclopedia, you just know things, you won't be able to derive other things.
Correct.
from it.
Correct. So there's a,
feels much more connected when you worked on something. You know that than just like
100%. Yeah. This is the whole sort of nemetic sifa, the embarrassment you feel if you get it for nothing sort of thing. But we'll not go there tonight. So he just reads on. He says, therefore, nimna shetafkid hamoyach. It comes out, therefore, that the function haya of the moyach, hulias mesach, the stor la nefesh adam naftir shalati geinu lo yedias el lefi migvolas aguf. That it becomes like a barrier, like a veil, stopping you getting. It's a barrier to stop you getting to that. Hazman v'malkim lefi polosav v'mesav to adam atzam v'adam b'chira v'maisa. That is only, all knowledge is now, after birth, is going to be using the brain, you employing the brain in order to achieve that for yourself. But you didn't have that before. That's just setting us up. Now, then he says the following thing. This is on page 163. Kasha ma'oid l'chadar derech mechitzazu. So this barrier that the brain has now established, saying that all knowledge comes through me, blocking you from the infinite knowledge that you learn in your mother's womb from before all time and all knowledge, it's extraordinarily hard to pierce that veil, to see through the wall that the moyach has established. Okay. במגיעס לאדם ידיעס פסאמיאס של המזרחה של הזוז שלו בדרך החושים, היינו מה שקוראים telepathy. And sometimes a person has insights, sometimes you know, and you must have had this experience yourself, when you simply know things which are out with the normal parameters of your brain. I think I once told you about two girls I used to teach in Liverpool when I was in Cowlin, Liverpool in England. They were absolute and total geniuses, identical twins. They were so identical that the father could not distinguish them. And every teacher told me that they didn't actually teach them anything except that's an A, a B, a C, and a D. And they make these sounds, and then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the basic structure of math, and they just started. And they literally were in their own little world. It was that level of genius. It was a good job they were born as twins because they had at least somebody else to talk to. At the age of 12, the International Bible Quiz in Jerusalem was a Bible quiz organised by somebody in Israel, thinking maybe the state, and they invite priests and bishops and anybody in the world, and it's anything in Tanakh, and you have to know Tanakh Baal Peh, inside out, blah 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 blah. And the tradition, the minhag, is that an Israeli always wins. Anyway, so they at the age of 12 came joint second in the International Bible Quiz in Jerusalem. They're absolute and total geniuses.
Chidon HaTanakh Olami.
Is that what it's called?
It's called Chidon HaTanakh Olami.
Chidon HaTanakh Olami. Very good. So I remember the first time this happened, I thought I'd gone mad. I was sitting there. They used to come for a Shabbos afternoon, for a Shiur Shabbos afternoon. Now I won't embarrass you by asking how long you could sit comfortably listening to my Shiur. But normally it's 40 minutes. Normally they ask me to speak 40 minutes. A Shiur 45 minutes. Fine. I used to give these girls a Shiur 3 hours on the Shabbos afternoon. Well, and this is not because I was trying to torture them. That's what they wanted and what they could accept. And if I introduced them to a new sefer like Rabbi Dessler, they would simply drive or get somebody to bring it from the 40 minutes away from Manchester through to Liverpool, and by the end of the month they knew Baal Peh. And they knew the whole of Mishnah Berurah, Baal Peh, when they get married. Which is Rabbi Dessler, right at the beginning of Kelly Caliph, how he used to stay up on Friday night with his uncle and his father, and they stayed up all night, and he used to stay up with his Rebbe learning as well, and his mother, Tzedekah, he says she used to stay up the whole night also learning the Seder with Rambam, Medrash Rabbah, and Malbim. Which of course I do all the time as well. You get the idea. Anyway, so I was sitting giving them a Shiur. The first time I saw this happen, I thought I'd gone mad. I wrote about this in one of my book. I called it the chapter Blink. I said something like this, something, whatever I'm talking about. And they both wanted to ask a question. Now, the question wasn't one that automatically and, you would say, logically flowed from the thing that I was saying. But they wanted to ask a question at the same time. It was the same question. And they started asking the same question at the exact same moment, using the exact same language. Like stereo speakers. You know? And then, realizing they were both asking the same questions, they said blah, 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 and I know, And then they both looked down, a very sneaky thing, both looked down at this. And this is the first time I blinked. They didn't look at each other, but one went like this, and the other one, and she carried on. I could see that one had said to the other, you asked the question. But they didn't look at each other, and they didn't speak. They just went. So the first time I thought, it has to be a fluke, but this happened every week. Right, so there's such a thing as telepathy, when a person somehow is able to, you actually see it, it's very, very sweet. If you've seen an old couple who've been married for about 60, 70 years, and sometimes you see that, they seem to have a telepathic awareness of what's going on. They don't. But he talks about telepathia. Gam kasher odom b'matzav hashtoimus, ecstasy, says here, when a person is in of ecstasy. Oy shebrias nashin is errors, or he's very, very excited about it. Lafa'omin, misrachich hamesach ba'az elul hanefesh lahargish devorim me'uchri apargod as man v'mokim. Sometimes when a person gets extraordinary in a state of great excitement, it's possible in that almost near hysteria state for a person to break free from the domination and the tyranny of the brain and have a glimpse of things that happened before. With me so far?
What are we talking about?
You. Any human being. No, don't look at the shaman, it's you.
What?
as a person.
What am I independent of my
Telepathy, when these two girls are not, this is not the shamas, I'm telling you that these two girls, as human beings in the middle of a shiur, had a telepathic. There can be stages in life, we're going to see in a second, where a person can break free from the tyranny of the brain.
So you're saying that's not a function of the brain, it's bypassing the brain?
Bypassing the brain.
So it's...
Seeing over the wall or seeing through the wall. There's a crack.
That's like attacking the
Oh. So we're coming to all this. Hold on, yeah.
Maybe basic level.
Adkani's not said Nevuah. The shiur's about Cholamas, so we're going to get to there in a second. But we'll see there's a very close kesher between Nevi'as and Cholamas and this state we're talking about here. But let me read on a little bit. I should stopping. Zehu inyan hakoisem. That's what koisem is. So koisem, I don't know how we literally translate that in English. Some sort of magic, necromancy, no, necromancy is talking to the dead, but some sort of Harry Potter stuff. Sorry?
Charmers.
Some
of the other.
all right. I'm not exactly sure what the charming would be, but anyway. Now they are sometimes able to see into the future. The Rambam says this quite clearly, Sefer Mitzvahs, and this is Loisa saying Lamed Aleph. Lamed Sof. Al Inyan HaKoisem, Shu Shenia Koyach Hadimion, Min Bali HaKoichos, Amagidim Mashi Iskadish Kadim Hayasam, they're able to see what's going to happen before it's going. But Devorim Miskaimim Beroiv, underline this. And what they say in the majority of cases actually comes true. Someone will use a stick, magic wand, whatever. They zag, zakas, and scream and shout, make up the shunas, the ezra, the shavas. Actually, imsakamoy, any achol, and neufel, this for Masha also bios, but Gavara, Isis, for Alman, Besoifa Marif. I've seen that many times, he says the Rambam. I remember there was a fellow in Yeshiva in Gateshead in my time, and it was called Solomon. He only stayed for a little while. He was a Sephardi, very dark skinned. He actually came from India or Iraq originally. Very nice fellow. Yeshivish fellow. And he said that he's seen this in an Indian village. He said he promised he saw this with his own eye. It was a fakir. A fakir is like a magician of some sort. And they came to the village. And of course, you know that Chazal say that the place of real Avodah Zarah and this sort of stuff, India is the place where the last, because whenever Hashem creates something, it's never completely taken away. There's always a plate, there's always some sort of residue of it. The place where the real magic exists would still be India. In fact, when I was at university, they showed us a video once of in Sri Lanka. There was a guy, he was a fakir, and there was some sort of like Hindu festival, etc. And there was a frame. Imagine a rectangular box, but just imagine you're drawing it. So just the outline of a box, right? You got that? And that's what there was a metal frame that was that shape. Okay, so it's actually quite good. It's a bit like that there. You can see that. Sorry. Okay. Right. That's the shape there. And at the corners, there were wires. And the wires are attached to meat hooks. Meat hooks, okay? You're not going to like the next bit. If you're squeamish, do this quickly. So the guy comes, he stands there, and he sort of goes into this sort of trance. And they take the meat hook, and they, in the shoulder blade there, they dig it in, right? And it's a big meat hook. No blood there, and then the calf, the back of the legs. So he's left there, swinging the whole day, and people came for a brocha from the Rebbe, right? And it was apparently a big thing to touch him. The guy's shocking back and forth. It looked very, very strange. He experienced no pain, there was no blood, and for a whole day, I mean, how would you feel if you're suspended, by meat hooks into your flesh? So, says the Rambam, such people, such things are possible, and that Taki, they would see the future. They're able to see the future. What you have to do, therefore, is to break out from the dominance of the brain, and it can be through a moment of great emotion or great excitement, and for a moment you get a glimpse into the future. So they work themselves up. These fakirs get themselves, and sometimes they slash themselves and do all sorts of stuff. It's all about Zara, and that allows them that moment to have a glimpse beyond the wall. Hakeshav says Rabbi Dessler is Nesser Minotaur, it's also Minotaur. He calls who derech Ruach HaTumah. It's all called Ruach HaTumah. All the stuff that we're talking about, Ruach HaTumah. Why? Alidei ecstasy kazu, in such a state of excitement or hysteria, nifred mehanefesh v'nimsa shuvtoni. then the person, as it were, is disconnecting the physical from the spiritual. Remember, it's only when you're inside the body that the moyach can control you. When you're outside the body, then the moyach can't control you. And then you can see things, which takes us, of course, to a cholim. So Rashi says a cholim is the 60th of Nevi'us. When do you have dreams? When you're asleep. And we all know that's why we do Mineg Vasar in the morning, because again, it's a shmek. It's a bit of a reach of movness, because you've sleep is the 60th of death. Your neshama has left your body. But if it's left the body, then the body doesn't have the ability to dictate to the nefesh what it sees, to the neshama what it sees. But when you're here, not. Unless you break free from it, says Rabbi Dester, using all these sorts of mystical ways. So therefore it's like Kinyan Tumas Amesh. Sleep is a little bit like Tumas Amesh. And therefore a person who gets into all this sort of stuff and breaks free from the body, the control of the body, it's a Tumas Amesh. That's what's called Derech L'Tumah. HaKadusha Yesh La Derech Acheres. So now remember, so what we're saying here is you've got the ability to break free from the restrictions of this world. Before you were in this world, you saw the whole of time. You can see the whole of history. Misofa Olam ad Sofa Olam. When you come to this world, you can't see it anymore. But if you could break, have a, jump up, there's a wall. So over there is all the knowledge in the world. So when I jump up, and for a second I get to look, I might get a glimpse to see something in the future. But of course, boom, gravity is going to bring you back down again. The ruach of the derech of kedusha is totally different. You're not jumping up and for a few seconds looking over. You're looking through. The wall is no longer a wall for you. Through kedusha and through mitzvahs and through all this sort of stuff, then tzaddikim at the very highest levels are not constrained by zman and by the normal rules of knowledge that you and I have, which is why they're able to see things and understand things that nobody else can. Remember I told you the story of the guy who went to the bracha from the stapler? Is that story? Do you know that one? Guy went to get bracha from the stapler, and the stapler was completely deaf. So whatever you had to do, you had to write down. So in comes the yeshiva bracha. He comes in and he writes down Ani Chatan, and he would say bracha min harav, whatever he said, blah blah. What a blessing from the rabbi. I'm engaged. And he hands this little note to the stapler, and the stapler looks at it and looks at him. Go and bring me your Rosh Hashiva.
He wasn't Jewish or something?
Yeah. So in comes the Rosh Hashiva, and the Rosh Hashiva, the boy's told away outside. So he says to the Rosh Hashiva, "Wie macht a shidduch mit a Yiddish Mädel at a goy?" How do you make a shidduch with a Jewish girl and a non-Jewish boy? The Rosh Hashiva was busy right now with the family, blah, 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 great family and from people and blah, blah. Boy's not Jewish. Inquiries are made, and it turns out it was a funny conversion in the great grandmother or something like that. Well, Jewish. So they asked the stapler afterwards, "How did you know?" I mean, if you work this out mathematically, if it was the great grandmother who wasn't Jewish, right? She married the father. They had, let's say, so it had to be the maternal side. They had a child, a little girl, right? So physically, she's half Jewish, isn't she? Her genetic makeup is half Jewish. So that's the grandmother. Now she marries a Jew, and therefore they have a child, so therefore quarter Jewish.
Right. Not Jewish.
3/4 Jewish and quarter not Jewish, right? And then this boy's mother. So now we're going to 16th, right? And then him. So he looks Jewish. His genetic makeup is overwhelmingly Jewish. He's learning Gemara, so he's going to speak at least Ivrit and Aramaic, Lashon Kodesh, and who knows, she might have been Yiddish. So that makes him, etc., etc. How did he know? The stapler was baffled by the question. He didn't have a neshama. Now, I don't know the last time you saw a neshama, but I've never seen one. Well, not that I can recall, right? But they see things differently. Well, so now he goes on to what you were saying before. So let me read this a little bit more. But there's a different way to break through the normal rules and constraints of knowledge coming through the brain. That is to have an incredible amount of ruchnias affecting both the guf and the shama at the same time, simultaneously. A whole lifetime of focusing on being the mayat and minimizing what you get from this world and your interest in this world, etc., etc. So that the guf becomes a worthy, complementary partner to the neshama. It has become purified through the neshama, and therefore it no longer constrains the neshama, and you're able to see beyond the moich. Derek Zeni Krasogus Ruach HaKodesh, says Rabbi Dessa. That's called Ruach HaKodesh. But of course, from this comes a very, very obvious insight, and because if a dream gives you a glimpse into the future, which we'll talk about in a second, then of course it would, because when you sleep, your neshama has left the body, and of course you can have a glimpse into the future. The future's there anyway. Of course, in real terms, there is no such thing as future. It's just that when you're constrained in this world, there's a past, a present, and a future. So Rabbi Desta says in page 164, he says, Mataras HaCholam, what is the purpose of dreams? Right, so that would be the functionality of dreams, how it works, the mechanism of why a dream could show you the future. And that's the one we're all very interested in. In fact, I've got a very close friend. He was a Rosh Kollel in the West Coast. And he had a terrible nightmare one night. And the nightmare he saw that his teenage daughter, who was, down the hall in her bedroom, had drowned. And you know what it's like when you wake up in the morning, a dream just like disappears. Even if it was very real, but a few seconds later you can't remember what the dream was about. You remember it was disturbing or what it was about, but I mean, there was the theme, there was something nice or something terrible, but you've forgotten in a second. Anyway, to cut a long story short.
How long ago?
Sorry? Yeah, that's right. So in this particular case, he dreamt his daughter drowned. He woke up, have you ever had a dream where you wake up and mom is sweating your feet? And so he went over to wake his wife up in her bed to tell her about his dream. See, she was already awake. And she was looking very upset. And he said, what's wrong? And she had a terrible nightmare. She dreamt that their daughter had drowned. So what does any parents do if they both dream that their little girl has? So they rush into the room. And she was fine, apart from the fact that she had a dream that she drowned. So they went, and this happened the next night as well. So they went to Moshe Shapiro Zechazadeh Livracha to ask him what he thought. And he said, Mistam is the shtus, probably it's nonsense, but you should give tzedakah, which is the standard way, standard reaction a person is supposed to have to a bad dream these days. So Tanis Cholam is we're not supposed to be in such a level for that anymore. Anyway, fine. But this dream actually went on for a year, every night, for the three of them, before it actually went away. And then, of course, and that's the one we're really sort of we worry about. When if a dream is a 60th of Nevi'as, and you dream something bad, does that mean that something bad's going to happen? My mother when I was a little boy, she said, that broke my dream. There's this phrase, that broke my dream. What it meant was, you dream about something, and often you forget what you dreamt. And as I said, but something would happen in the course of the day which reminded her that she dreamt about that. Something about a bus. It happens to me all the time. Right? And I hear my mum saying about that broke my dream. Right? Such things happen.
Deja vu.
Sorry?
Like deja vu.
A deja vu is not slightly different because it was a dream. You've remembered that you dreamt that. Deja vu is I've been here before. And that's supposed to be like Gilgal Neshamas and stuff like that. And that's a different portion. In fact, you asked me that question 300 years ago. Okay.
I thought that a dream is just imagination. If someone thought of something during the day, he's going to dream it at night.
People have crazy dreams of
I got a story. Wait, I've got.
I know the numbers of the Powerball every night, so.
Mataras Achalam, he says Rabbi Dessler, the aim, the purpose, the target. I was looking at the Kinas and Tisha B'Av that Mataras also a target for a bow and arrow, which I didn't realize. The Galus is a Shiur liboy hatzvon shalom. Why? So our question was, why does Hashem make us dream? So he says the purpose of dreams is, I can read the Hebrew again, Legalus es hirhuri liboy hatzvonis shalom. The hidden bits of your heart. So back to the heart thing. That means the bits of your personality, the bits of you, who and what you are, that you didn't necessarily see. Hainu, it's it's the subconscious level. In order you do tshuva. Okay. As Reb Chaim Vital says, repeatedly in this story, bad midah is much worse than any avera that you do. The avera that you do is a consequence of the bad midah. Get to the source, and the problem goes away. Okay. So he gives 3 reasons why a person might dream. The first reason he says that a person dreams or might dream is because Hashem wants to show him a bad midah that he possesses. But as we know, that 59/60th of a dream is complete garbage. It's just shtus. And there could be one little schmeck in there of emes. So I can't resist telling you this story. I once tried, I'm very close, as you know, to Ramatziel Solomon. He spoke at my wedding, which is my first, to my late wife, and that's Shon. So that goes back to when I was 40-something years ago. And so we're very close. So once I was trying to get through to ask him a question, and his Rebbetzin is still alive, also very close to that, her family too. And so I found out, etc., could I speak to the Rav? And she said, well, he won't be available, maybe get him tomorrow morning, which is never going to be easy either, even if you got an appointment. Anyway, so during the night, I dreamt that I asked him the Shaila, and I dreamt the answer he gave me. So I phoned the next day, and I said, Rebbe Solomon's here, you said I could phone the Rav. Oh, he's very busy, I don't know if you can see him. I said, actually, something very interesting, Rebbetzin. I dreamt last night that I asked the Rav the Shaila, and I dreamt that that he gave me the answer. I just want to see if that's actually what he's going to say. Hold on. And he came straight to the phone. And so, and she'd obviously told me the story. He said, so what did I say in the dream? I said, well, if the Shkiach doesn't mind, I'd rather hear what he really says, then I'll tell him. So he laughed, and he told me, I told him what it was, he told me his answer. I said, oh, that's what he said in the dream, which was what he said in the dream. So I would say that broke my dream. And then he said to me, I'm not going to ask you what else I said in the dream. So that was the clever bit, because 59th of dream, 60th of dream is complete rubbish, So he might have just said, that was the joke. Anyway, the point is clearly that sometimes a dream, and bear that in mind, the majority of a dream is garbage. The purpose of a dream, says Rabbi Desta, is to show you something about yourself which needs tikkun, which you need to deal with, you have to put right. But why doesn't he just tell you? Why doesn't he just inspire, your Rebbe to turn around and say, you've got a problem with your gaiva, or your taiva, or whatever it is, your cast, whatever it is.
It used to be that way.
Used to be, long time used to be. And the answer is, as the Gemara famously says, even though Teichachah is a mitzvah, nobody knows how to do it anymore. That's already the time of the Gemara. Nobody knows how to accept it anymore. But if it's the case that Hashem shows you something you need to work on, and he shows it to you in the form of a dream, and it's just a stupid dream. You're flying through the clouds, and they're all candy cotton clouds, and you see below a chocolate lake. In the middle of the chocolate lake, there's a huge island that looks like a bar of chocolate. And you fly, you're a bit chocolate obsessed, this is my chocolate dream, and you fly onto the island, and there's an M&M tree. The M&Ms, those little brown chocolatey things. M&M tree, right? So, you like that. So you go to grab a packet of M&Ms from the branches, and your kid brother rushes past you to get it, and you push it into the lake, you grab the M&Ms, and you take off and fly back into the candy cotton clouds. And you wake up the next morning, and you remember the dream. You might say to yourself, would I really push somebody out the way because they wanted to get what I wanted? No, it's not, as it were, in your face. It's not direct criticism, because it's direct criticism. I just did a case now, I can't go into the details because I don't know who's watching this, but the case now about Shidduch, and one of the people in the Shidduch, the boy or the girl, behaved badly. And I was really annoyed. Really, I hadn't made the Shidduch, I was the reference of one of them, one of the referees. But it was really bad. And because I'm friendly with both families, I phoned up one of an uncle of one of them, and I said, look, this is bad. And they've not behaved well. And he was a friend of mine, a chaver of mine in Gateshead. And I hear he speaks, he or she speaks to you. And I think you should speak to them. And they said, and the uncle said, no, I can't. Because this had apparently happened many times before. I can't. And then he said to me with a little a little sort of like laugh in his voice, said, "I'll give you the number. You can speak to them if you like." I said, "Oh yes, please. Give me the number." So I got the number and I tried to phone straight away, and they're not in this country, and I couldn't get through. And I left a message, maybe phone me back the next day, because they know who I am. And so, but then I'd already thought what I was going to say, and how I was going to put it to him. To cut a long story short, it was a shidduch. My rule always is you go out twice. I've made 55 shidduchim, but I only make a shidduch. I'm not a shotgun. Don't start. Please don't tell anybody this, because the phones start going crazy. I only make a shidduch if I know the boy very well and the girl very well, and usually they're Talmidim of mine. And if I know them well, and then you bring them together, you feel confidence that the shidduch is going to be matzliach. But I always make it a rule: you go out twice. I don't care if you think that the fellow is, not for you, or the girl's not for you, and of course you're boys, and therefore she's got to look like the most beautiful woman in the world, like Vashti, etc. It doesn't matter. You don't reject a Jewish girl after one meeting, or a Jewish boy. So go out the first time, and how can you know anybody after one meeting anyway? That's ridiculous. So you go at least twice, and then if it doesn't work, the girl, because girls are different to boys, they're going to say, "Oh, it's my personality, or I don't look pretty enough," and all that sort of stuff. See, fine. So by the time I got to him, I didn't criticize at all, and I said, "You know what? I think I've told you him." I said, "You know what? I just wanted to tell you one thing, because I want to help you find another shidduch." I said, "But I happen to have a Kabbalah. You always go at least twice, even if you don't find the girl attractive. You go out, even though the second time is a chesed. It's a big chesed to go out with a girl so she's not embarrassed. Nicht to shemsach in a Yiddish Mädel. They say just not to embarrass a Jewish girl. That's a big thing." And he heard me. Whether he applied it, I'm not sure, but he heard me. You've got to be very clever when you're criticizing somebody, because people don't like being criticized, including me. Anyway, so to cut a long story short, I can't resist telling you another story. In the big yeshiva in Europe after the war, I'm scared to say this because I'm against that Talmud, but there was a small yeshiva in London called Torah Emes, and it was run by somebody called Moshe Schneider. And Moshe Schneider was a Talmud of Chafetz Chaim. He had a yeshiva in Frankfurt that got out just before the Nazis, made it impossible for Jews to get out. Re-established itself in the Stamford Hill area. That's like the Borough Park of London. And Moshe Schneider was a very clever man. And if he saw a boy who'd done something wrong and needed criticism, this is what he'd do. Now, this is absolute genius. He'd go into the base of Medrash and he would say to him, let's go for a walk. I'm not suggesting Moshe would do something wrong. Let's go for a walk. Which he often did when they were discussing Gemara. So he got him walking the street up and down outside the yeshiva. So he put his arm around the boy's shoulder, and they're walking together. And he said, this is before he get down to Tachlis. He said, if you go to a wedding, and let's say it's your brother or your sister, and the cow's wearing this beautiful white dress, she looks Spanish, like a queen, a malka, and then the boy is wearing this beautiful smart suit, black suit, navy blue, whatever it is, and you notice that on your brother's lapel there's a little bit of dandruff. He's wearing his black suit and there's a little white dandruff. Or your sister, one black hair has fallen on the shoulder of her white dress. Will you point that out to them? Of course you would, right? However, if you go to the mechanic to fix your car, or to collect your car, which you're supposed to be fixing, he comes out from under your car and a drop of oil falls onto his shirt or his overalls. Would you say to him, "Oh, you've got a stain in your overall"? Or would you do that? No. Why? Because mechanics are filthy. They get dirty all day. They're underneath cars and they're verschmutzt. But when it comes to the sister with a little black hair on her shoulder from her white dress, or the dandruff, that you point. That's because it's spoiling. One little thing, just take it off and it's perfect. And then with the Hagdama, he would turn around and say, "I saw you doing something. I heard you saying something. It's spoiling you." You see the genius there here? First of all, he takes the boy outside so nobody knows he's being criticized. Then he's got his arm around the boy's shoulder telling him, "I'm your Rav, I'm your Rebbe, I love you, I'm on your side." And then he's telling him, "And apart from this, I think you're perfect, or you're really, really good." That gives you the encouragement to accept the Muslim. That's one reason you can dream. It's not direct. It's Hashem giving you a remez just like that, with the subtlety of Ramosha, so that you were makabel the Muslim. Another reason you dream, he says, or it's the opposite. Let's deal with the one about the future. We already talked about that. A dream can be a glimpse into the future, but before we all start going crazy about this, if it's a 60th of Nevi'us, then suppose I'm a real Novi. I'm not a fraction of a Novi. A dream is only a 60th, that's a very small fraction. It's the smallest perceivable fraction, bottle b'shishim. So if I am a real Novi and I point to you, the person at the end of the table, who's not here, and I say to you, George, I'm a Novi, I had a Nevi'us, you're going to die this week. Will he die this week? Maybe. The rule goes like this, the Rambam says, if a Novi dreams something good, if Hashem says something good's going to happen, must happen. So if I say to you, you're going to become rich this week, and I'm a Novi, he's going to become rich. But if the Novi says something bad, and the Nevi'us, the word from Hashem, is bad, you're going to die this week, maybe. Because he can do the tshuva, there can be a million different reasons why Hashem will change the Gzar Din if it's something bad, but not if he promises something good. So it could be that even if the dream tells you something that might be, it doesn't necessarily have to be, if it's something bad. So my friend who dreamt of his daughter drowning, it ain't necessarily so. But the third reason for dreams, very interestingly, is, this is Rabbi Nesta, a dream can be a glimpse of something good in yourself you don't recognize. The first one was something bad in yourself you didn't realize at the subconscious level. But sometimes there's something good within yourself that you don't recognize. And these are the three reasons Rabbi Nesta says that Hashem sends his dreams. Of course, they're all joined by common denominator. There's a tzad shava between them. And that is an invitation to do what? Change. If it shows you something bad, it's an invitation to change. If you see a bad future, change. If you see something good, change. Maximize yourself and become that. But there is another type of reason, and we've already heard that from our Israeli friend. So the Gemara in Brochus and in Haim says the following thing. If I can find it. Yeah, sorry, Nivov. Omele Kaiser Rabbi Shiur bar Chanina. Caesar one day said to Rabbi Shiur bar Chanina, Amrita dechachmita tuva. It's said about you Jews that you're meant to be very clever. Imani mai chazini bechalamai. So tell me what I'm going to dream about tonight. Now, I don't know if you ever went to non-Jewish college or non-Jewish school, but if a non-Jewish person comes up to you and says, you Jews are meant to be so clever, what's usually coming next? No, it can't be good. A punch in the nose would be a reasonable thing to anticipate from this, right? Okay. You Jews are meant to be so clever. Okay. Now here we've got the most powerful person on the planet. We've got Caesar, and he's used to getting his way, and he says, okay, right, clever Jew, tell me what I'm going to dream about tonight. Now, at that point, I would just say, oh me, I mean, what are you supposed to say? But Rabbi Shiur bar Chanina didn't bat an eyelid. You're going to dream that your arch enemy, the king of the Persian Empire, is going to defeat you, capture you, make you a slave, make you a pig herd, a swine herd. You're going to have to look after his pigs, and he'll give you a golden stick to look after them. A stick made of gold to look after his pigs. Hirur kula yona. He thought about that the whole day long. But guess what he dreamt that night? Which is what you said. That something, of course, and we're all, what's the chiddush here, we all know about this, something that you're thinking about all day long and you're worrying about, guess what? That's what you dream about. You obsess about it, very good.
So we're going to dream tonight about dreams?
Yeah.
However, even though that Gemara sounds, if that's the limit of the Gemara, it sounds really a bit unnecessary because we already know it. There's no big chiddush there, is there? But natural fact, there is. Because with that, you can understand something which I've got the chutzpah to suggest that you might not have understood properly before, and that's only because I'm going to tell you an Alshach, because the Alshach's always showing us stuff that we should have seen before. In the Seder V'Yeshev, there's a story of the conflict between Yosef and the brothers, and there it says the following thing: Yisrael obviously Yosef called Bonavki ben Zakunim Eloi, and Yisrael loved his son more than the other sons because he was the ben Zakunim Eloi. Also like it and he made for him a coat of something. Some sort of coat. And the brothers saw him that he was Yaakov's favorite, and they couldn't speak to him in peace at all. So here is now we come to dreams. Of course, this is the Torah's parsha of dreams. But I would like to ask you to pay careful attention to the words, because there's going to be a problem here. Vayachlam Yosef Chalom, and Joseph dreamt a dream. V'yaged le'echem, and he told it his brothers, v'yasifa oid tznoa, so they hated him even more. V'yamar alem, and he says, Shima noach chalom azeh asher chalamti. Listen to this dream that I dreamt. We were binding sheaves of corn in the middle of the field. And my sheaf of corn rose up. The stood high. And your sheaves of corn bowed down to my sheaf of corn. The brother said to him, you're going to be a king over us? In Moshel Tim Shabano, you rule over us? And they hated me even more for his dreams and for his words. Famous story. All know that. What's wrong with it? So listen very carefully to it. We'll go through it again. Listen carefully. There's something which is so wrong in the pasuk that it screams, which is me being cruel, because of course that's not the answer. I know the answer. Incidentally, I have to tell you, I've only once given this shiur, or mentioned this in the shiur, and somebody's actually been McCavan to the Elshach. V'yachlam Yosef Chalam, Joseph dreamt a dream. You got it, and his brothers. They hated him even more. Listen to this dream that I dreamt. We were binding sheaves in the middle of the field. My sheaf of corn stood high, began the sofa, very high. And your sheaves of corn bowed down to my sheaf of corn. His brother said to him, will you really be a king over us? Will you rule over us? And hated me more for his dreams, for his words. Anything?
Maybe?
Sorry?
Maybe what is the Chalamoisa and Dvora?
Go on, what do you
And
mean?
his dreams. What about in words that he said?
Oh, but the words. Only says for both. I mean, why it says dreams first and then in words?
Why just on Chalamoisa?
Go on, what?
Just repeat the Chalamoisa. Why need to say the Dvora?
Oh, just say why say and the Devorah? Okay, fine. Any other questions on this?
He was talking about it, and then that's what made him dream about it.
What do you mean?
Yosef was obsessed.
Because he was obsessed about it. He used to talk to himself, I'm going to be a king with me. That's why.
Okay, that's very, very good. So the Alshach says like this. First of all, what was the dream? So the dream was, in the dream, my sheaf of corn, right? We're binding sheaves of corn, and my sheaf of corn stands high, right? Higher than yours. Yours is around me, and he bowed down to my sheaf. My sheaf of corn is high, and your sheaves of corn bow down, right? And then, who do you bow down to? King. Bow to a king, no? So they say, will you really be a king over us? Will you rule over us? They changed the order. Should have said it the other way about. Will you be rule over us? Will you be a king over us? That's the way he said it. Why did they change the order? Get it? Another problem is that they're Nevi'im. Nevi'im see the future. And how do they see the future? Through dreams. Either, apart from Moshe Rabbeinu, either at night time they go to sleep and they, on their Madriga Taka, get to see a big glimpse of the future, or it's during the day and they go into like a shalaf during the day, they go into a trance during the day and then they see it. So they're all Nevi'im. If you're a Novi and you come here and you say, I want to tell you my dream. Now the Rambam says you can have Nevi'as which is just for you. A Nevi'as which is you to tell you Avram Avinu go to Eretz Yisrael. That's just for Avram Avinu. And then he can have Nevi'as he's got to tell other people, like Yoina telling a whole town, a whole city they've got to tshuva. And then you can have Nevi'as he's got to tell the whole world. And that's why sometimes a Novi won't tell anybody else because Hashem didn't want them to know. But they're Nevi'im. So here comes the and says, I want to tell you a Nevi'as. I would have thought they'd been interested in that. But they reject it out of hand. But the real question is, it says they hate him al chalomasov v'al devarov, for his dreams and his words. But the Pasuk said the following thing. V'yom olim shima no hacholam hazeh ashar chalamti. Listen to this dream that I've dreamt. Not in the plural. And then he tells them, he tells them the dream. And it keeps emphasizing this. V'yachlam Yosef chalom. He had one dream. V'yagel echve yasiva oitzat nehitin mimor. V'yomer shima no hacholom. But what do you mean if he had one dream? Why is it they hate him for his dreams? I know he tells them another dream later, but that's not happened yet. So the Alshon says this, that that Yosef indeed has a dream. And what's the dream? In the dream, he's higher than them and he's going to rule over them. And they reverse that. We'll come to that in a second. So he's going to be the king over them. How many people are we talking about? How many brothers are there? In this incident, who's he telling? They're not saying Binyamin. Binyamin's back home with Yaakov. He's telling 10. Can you be the king of 10 people? You can be the leader. You can be the Rosh. You can be the gaffer. You can, whatever you want. But you can't be the king unless you have a city-state, like in ancient Greece, Sparta or Athens, the king of Athens. Or a country, or maybe even a few countries. Can you be the king of 10 people?
When he's talking to them, he's telling them all the stuff that has to be with them. He's not going to tell them that in Egypt someone will...
But he doesn't, in Taki, he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that, and they don't know that. But the point of a dream, a part of a Nevi'us, is to try and interpret what the Nevi'us is, and if he's got to share it with them, maybe they're able to help him with that. Taki, you're right. Exactly what he dreams is going to come true. But he doesn't know, and they don't know he's going to go down to Mitzrayim. He's going to become the king of Mitzrayim, and that's when they're going to bow down to him. But that doesn't seem right. It doesn't make any sense. You can't be the king of 10 people. If that bit's right, so he starts off saying, I will rule over you, I'll be the king over you. And they say, you really? You're going to be the king over us? If that bit's garbage, that bit's garbage as well. And they hate him for his dreams. What dreams? He only had one dream. No. The dream that we talked about in the Gemara before. When Caesar said, what am I going to dream about tonight? He said, he gave him an image, and as you said, he was obsessing about it. Because this was clear to them that this couldn't be Nevi'us, then it's the dreams. The dream that you're telling us about at night is because what you're dreaming about during the day. When Martin Luther King said in his famous speech, I have a dream. In that sense, he meant an ambition, a hope, a plan, that sort of word. That's what they think he's dreaming. What you're dreaming about thinking about during the day, that's what you're dreaming about at night. And they couldn't speak to him in the Shalom. Shalom, says the Baal HaTurim, missing a Vov, as it's written in the Torah, predictions 400, which is the 400 years that were meant to be Mitzrayim, because they couldn't speak in peace, as I said in Shul. All Goliaths are because of Sinaskin. Fine. There is a very horrible Gemara in Bava Basra, either Daf Tes or Daf Yud, I can't remember, and it talks about the worst possible things that could ever happen to a human being. The worst possible things that could happen to a human being. What are the worst possible things that could happen to a human being?
I have a list.
Give me one.
They die.
Yeah, they die. Actually, well, that's a bummer. However, there's much worse things than dying.
Never happened to you.
What's worse? Well, that's not fair. He obviously just died. He's got it all, right? Okay. What? Give me an example of something bad. One example.
Can blind.
Can be blind? Yeah. Kosher mace? Yeah. What did you say?
Ani?
Poor? You're being very firm. Yeah, go on. They're keeping to the classics. Yeah, go on. What would you say? From your large list, being electrocuted.
What thing that happened to you? What do you think that happened to you?
No, you're not cheating like that. Give me one example. Oh, he lost his children.
Stepping in children.
Losing your children. Yeah, losing your limbs. Yeah, go on. Well, torture. Torture? Much worse than death. If you mean torture, death, you want to die. Right? Starvation, we just read Eicha. Well, they say, fortunately, people were killed with the sword, because that's pretty quick. But starving, that's much, much worse. Losing children? Well, in Rome, they had slave farms. You know that? They bred human beings. Like, you can go to a place to get dogs, cows. They bred human beings. Went to the slave market, and that'll make a nice, and paired them together. Not they're going to like each other, just they'll produce a handsome child that we would sell a lot of money from. What age does the child become a commodity? What age were they bought?
2 years old.
9. And automatically, for sexual purposes. I mean, that goes without saying, boys or girls. They were going to be raped almost straight away. So there's a ton of things that can be terrible, terrible things, much worse than death. And what's worse than all of them, if you want your plow, what's worse than all of them put together? Worrying about them. I remember when my late wife and I used to go to the cancer hospital in Manchester, and we're waiting for the results of tests. Waiting for the results is much, much worse than getting the results. Even if the results are bad, it's better to know. It's the dangling. And waiting to know what's going to happen is terrible. But all the things that we mentioned are the daily companion of a slave. A slave has no rights whatsoever. You're a piece of furniture. If your master beats you to death, you can't pick up the phone and dial 911. You're his property, right? If he wants to rape you, you're raped. If he wants to marry you to some woman, you're stuck with that. And if you love her, and after 4 years she's sold to somebody else, you say, that's it, goodbye, relationship. And your children, same story. Could starve you. But worse than that is worrying about that. And the place that treated slaves worse than anywhere else is Mitzrayim. And suppose you'd been sold to Mitzrayim by your brothers, by the ones who should have looked after you, and as they say in America, had your back. And they're the ones who condemn you, not just to be an Eved, to be an Eved in the worst place in the world. Even the greatest sometimes got a little bit depressed. David HaMelech said, Keli, Keli, Lama Zavtani. Sometimes you just don't see the way. And when Yosef somehow or other gets out of this and he works in Potiphar's house and everybody likes him, and the story, Potiphar likes him, and of course tragically his mistress likes him as well. And she's a stunningly beautiful woman, and she tries to seduce him many, many times. That's why when the Paul says V'yama'in, it's got the shoshelos over it. So when you read V'yama'in, over and over and over, he said no. And he's just about to give in, but no, he forces himself not to, and still he's accused, still he's sent to jail. And the name of Jew is dirt in his trial because he passed the test. Can't you imagine him saying Keli Keli Lam Zavtani? But Yosef had a dream. And in the dream, Hashem said, you're going to be a king. And as Rabbi Desta says, a part of the dream is to show you the greatness that's within you, the possibilities that you have. The famous story of the Nesiv, Yon, the story of the Nesiv, when he told the story when he finished Shas, I don't know how many times he finished it, but he had a shtickle siyum, and he told the story about himself when he was a boy, growing up. He was in yeshiva, and he was messing about, relative to his madriga. And he wasn't taking it seriously, and one night he overheard his parents discussing what would be his future, because obviously he wasn't going to grow up into being the Talmud Chacham or the rabbi that they had in mind. And so they decided we're going to take him out. I can't remember. There's various versions of the story. Somebody said a cobbler. I had the shoemaker. Somebody else told me a jeweler. I'm not sure what he like. Anyway, Bekitzer, he overheard it, and he knocked on the door. Sorry?
Jeweler's too glamorous.
I'm going to tell you the jeweler portion, because my shiur is a glamorous shiur, okay? So Bekitzer, he knocks on the door. He says, Mommy, Daddy, I didn't mean to overhear, but please give me another chance. Decided to give him another chance. He said, no, to be matzliach. He became deceived. But he said to him, suppose I hadn't overheard that. They would have taken me out of yeshiva, I've been apprenticed to be a jeweler, and then I would have worked at this and earned some money, and then I moved to the United States of America. And when I get to America, he said, I worked for somebody in a jewelry shop for a few years, then eventually owned my own jewelry shop, quite successful. And that was that. And one day he said, I'll be standing in front of the Beis Din in Shomala. And they will say, and your name? They will say, Tuli Berlin, the jeweler from Manhattan. Oh, yes, Mr. Berlin. Fine. We'll just get down your file. While we're getting down your file, could you tell us something about yourself? Yeah, sure. So I came from the old country, and I came from a fruit family. I went to yeshiva, and then I moved to New York, worked in Brooklyn for a while, got out of there, opened a store in Manhattan quite successfully, met a young lady in a shidduch, fell in love. We built a loyal Jewish home with kashrus, Shabbos, and Taras Mishpacha. Children came along. I went to Daf Yomi, went to other shiurim, gave money to tzedakah. And then one day, I passed away. Actually, 12 minutes ago. And they would say to him, very nice, Mr. Berlin, we've got your file here. Now tell me, Mr. Berlin, have you heard of a sefer called Hemik Dover? Ever a sefer called Hemik Dover? And I would say, Hemik Dover? I don't think so. Okay, split. Have I heard of a called Emmett Brock? Emmett Brock? Don't think so. Mr. Berlin, it says in your file that you wrote those books. Sorry, wrong file. Tony Berlin from Manhattan. Would you look? I went to Shiur, but I never wrote no books. But you could have. But you could have. Much worse than going upstairs and seeing the video of your life, when all the mistakes and the embarrassing things that you did, is seeing the alternative version of your life when you didn't. When you saw the potential of whom you could have been. That's worse. I was once in California in a place called Calabasas, which is one of the most rich communities in the entire universe. And it's got one of these gated communities, and lots of actors, and a little tiny Jewish community there. And Calabasas is Spanish for pumpkin, which is a really terrible name for one of the richest communities in the world. I live in Pumpkin. Oh yeah. Anyways, you must be rich or mad. Anyway, so basically, so I gave a shiur in somebody's house, first time in Calabasas, and it was a very nice house. And he had a big grand piano in the corner. And afterwards, after the shiur, the guy, my host, came up to me and said, "Thank you very much for hosting me. I need a copy of my first book, which is called Dancing Through Time." And he said to me, "I've got a copy of your book here. I wonder if you'd sign it for me." I think it's the first time this has happened. It's quite a schmack if somebody asks you to sign your book, of course. I just happened to have a pen with me. So he said, "And it's my Shabbos treat." My Shabbos treat. I said, "What do you mean?" So this fellow's a Baal Tshuva. But he's a Baal Tshuva who'd got himself past the stage, the first year or two when it's Yiddishkeit is just lovely and pretty in Geschmack. And, Cholent, you've been introduced to Cholent, you've graduated to Shabbos Shlof, your body's changed, etc. Instead of rushing about in Shabbos doing, a million different things, no, Shabbos Shlof. And he says, but no, he learns Shabbos afternoon, he learns 2 hours of Chumash with Rashi. And he learns Kitzur Shulchan Aruch for another hour. He says, and if I keep to my schedule and learn for 3 hours, I reward myself by reading a chapter in your book. And I have to tell you, it was worthwhile flying all the way to California. I was still living in England in those days, just to hear this guy saying that. But one day I'll be standing in front of the Beis Din Shulchan, and they'll say, name? You're Diana Rubinstein from Scotland. So, yes, Mr. Rubinstein. And tell me, have you ever heard of a book called, I don't know, Dancing Through Time, or Refuah Salev, or the other books, etc.? I said, no, you wrote them. No, I didn't. I came from law. You could have. Much worse than being shown your mistakes is being shown the potential that you never fulfilled. A dream can show you. Hashem sends his dreams either to realize things we have to work on, or a glimpse of a possible future, good or bad, or the ability to see things in yourself that you wouldn't have noticed so that you can change. That's why Hashem makes his dreams.